Hello, grace and peace, everyone. My name is Breyunha, and in today's video, I will be doing my mid-year reading update. So it is currently June 30th, so I will be giving you my update all the way from January to the end of June, the books that I have read. I am happy to announce that I have read 5 books. Yes, I have started and completed 5 books this year, which is amazing because if y'all know, I think it was a few years ago where throughout the whole year I only read 5 books, but now I have gotten through halfway through and I still have more books to come. So this is an amazing feat for me. All 5 of those books, I just realized, were by Black authors, and even more so, 4 of those books were by Black women authors, period. Very happy about that. So I am super duper excited to showcase some of those books. I have my phone here that I wrote down my notes in and just how I reviewed the book. And I'm happy to announce as well, all 5 of these books were 5 stars. They weren't all 5 stars for the same reasons, but I do believe these books all to be 5 stars, which is crazy. So just a quick overview of what we're going to do. I'm going to tell you the 5 books that I did read. One book that I had to DNF, it's a soft DNF. I may come back to it, and then I'll give you about 3 books that are on my TBR. Alright, so the first book is called The Incredibly Human Henson Blaze, and I listened to this on an audio. I believe I listened to it on Libby, and this is by Derek Barnes. So I think I was watching MS Now and on YouTube, and they had this band book club book pick, and Derek Barnes's book was picked, and I was like, oh my goodness, I should read this. This is a middle grade book, contemporary fiction, and I absolutely loved it. I devoured this book. I have actually an entire video dedicated to this book on my channel. I will link it in the cards for you guys just so you guys can check it out. So I won't be doing too much explaining about what this book is. Like I said, I did give it 5 stars. And just a quick overview, this book is about a boy named Henson Blaze who comes from the long family line of the Blaze family. His mother has passed away, so he is continuing to live with his father. He is a football player, which is very important. And this really the book talks about, as an athlete, as a Black athlete, sometimes you have to confront the choice of whether you're going to be complacent and thereby complicit about the racial injustices in our world, or whether you're going to speak out against them and use your platform as a football player, as a person of influence in your town or in your city or in your country, to impact the world in a big way. And that is what he's wrestling with at like 13. And I absolutely love this book. I love Frida in this book. Okay, Frida, yes, meow. I like yeah, all the characters are very much so well written. I highly recommend this. Maybe for you guys, I don't believe anybody is too old to read middle grade, but also if you have middle grade children or maybe even high schoolers, they would definitely enjoy this book. Definitely add it to your homeschool curriculum, those of you who are homeschooling as well. Okay, I will also be giving you guys start days and end times. So I started Henson Blaze on January 6th, 2026, and I ended it January 17th, 2026. All right, now we're going to move on to number 2, which is the first book in the Glory Broussard mystery series. This book is called Glory Be by Danielle Arsenault. So this book came out in 2023, and I also rated it 5 stars. So a quick overview would be that there is a woman named Glory. Glory is best friends with a woman named Amity, and we learn in the first chapter that Amity has been killed, which sets the scene of the mystery. Her death is ruled as a suicide. However, Glory, being her best friend, knows that her friend would never commit suicide. She deems it to be a homicide, so she has to go through all of these old things that happened in the past to her and also to Amity, and she uncovers many secrets that this small town is holding. So this is a wonderful mystery book about friendship, about the power of friendship, even beyond the grave. And also there is a side plot of a second chance storyline, a second chance romance between the daughter and her childhood friend. This book also takes place within Louisiana. I believe the town is near Lafayette, Louisiana. And just a quick spoiler, you may want to skip ahead, but the best friend Amity, who is killed, she is also a nun at the Catholic Church. So she is confirmed throughout the novel to be having a romantic relationship with the Catholic priest. So there's a lot of church drama going on throughout the book. I would say some of the themes of this book include mother-daughter relationships, racial injustice, as well as church drama. So there is a lot of drama within the church sisterhood as a whole, as Amity was in a relationship with the Catholic priest. They had actually planned to run away together to Europe before she was killed. So then she died. So he became suspect number one, of course. And just uncovering the truth about the relationship, but also her death as well. I would say that this book felt like a hug from my church grandmother, because I often go to her house and we sit and we talk about her life before integration, because she is a woman of many years and she has a lot of wisdom. So I talked to her about some things that happened, and I feel like in this story, Glory also retold a lot of those memories of growing up in the Deep South, growing up in Louisiana, where a lot of things that happened were swept under the rug. As far as the spice level of this book, I would say it really has no spice, to be honest, on from the spice level being 0 to like 5. Well, 1 to 5, I would say it's at a 2. The only chapter that's like, okay, was chapter 23. And honestly, you can skip the whole chapter 23. You don't even need to listen to it to fully understand the entirety of the story. Yeah, that was more so the plot about the second chance romance. You can skip that. I listened to this book on audio on Spotify, my Spotify premium account. But you can listen to it. I believe it's on Libya as well. So I finished book 1 and I do plan to read book 2. I also want to note that the book I mentioned earlier, I also wanted to note that this book, Hints and Blaze, was set in Mississippi, and I thought that was the perfect location to talk about those people who are very much all-American, ride or die for football, but not so much for the humanity of the Black players. Oh my goodness, it says that I started this book January 20th and I ended it January 25th. Y'all, 5 days, y'all. I was listening and driving, listening and doing my hair. This was a good book. I was eating it up. And it also is a pretty short read. And so the next book I want to talk about is Harlem Rhapsody by Victoria Christopher Murray. Now, it says that I started this January 31st and I didn't end until March 1st. Okay, so this one took a little bit longer. I needed a little bit more time to digest. So this is a historical literary fiction piece. And just a quick overview, this mainly detailed the life of Jessie Redmond Fawcett, and specifically her romantic relationship with W.E.B. Du Bois. Relationship is putting it lightly. It was indeed a full-on affair. But regardless of the affair, she is a very accomplished woman, and that was just part of her life. Like, her heart was for the community. Her heart was for the advancement of Black lives. Her heart was for writing and literacy as a whole. And she also fell in love with a married man. And that's just that. So this book also details the early beginnings of the Harlem Renaissance. So Jessie Redmond Fawcett came to work with W.E.B. at the Crisis as their new literary editor, a position that was made just for her. And she was overly qualified, period. She was doing so much. let me not say that. Anyway, more to him. She was doing so much. She was carrying so much. It literally seemed to not function without her. Again, this is a fictional retelling, but I'm sure this is what happened. I am certain. So it detailed different relationships that she would have with Langston Hughes, County Cullen. Zora Neale Hurston was mentioned as well closer to the end. Claude McKay. Just different types of Black individuals that you would meet, who are using their voice and their pen to advance the message that Black is not a monolith, and that Black people are also highly artistic and highly creative. She also came to work on their Brownies book, which was their children's addition to the Crisis magazine. I also highly recommend listening to the author's note at the end. Now, I listened to this on audio as well, I think, from Spotify. And the author, Victoria Christopher Murray, even though this is fiction, she did so much due diligence and just research of trying to gather all of this information from reading every issue of the Crisis that she could find, just to make sure that things were factually aligned. Some of the things that she wanted to mention, she wanted it to seem real as in that time, use the words of that time as well. So I definitely applaud her. She has another book, Personal Librarian. I can't wait to jump into that. I haven't yet, but I will soon. In addition to that book, I would also like to read this book by Jessie Redmond Fawcett herself. So one day I was riding my bike and I stumbled upon this take one, leave one free library outside, and I picked up this book. It's called Plum Bun, a novel without a moral. Jessie Redmond Fawcett. The foreword is by Morgan Jerkins and the afterword is by Deborah McDowell. And it says here at the bottom, a key figure in the Harlem Renaissance movement, a force to be reckoned with. She was amazing. That was written by Shonda Rhimes, but even another quote on the back was written by W.E.B. Du Bois. Du Bois himself. What'd he say? One gets with thought and study. This is how I imagine he talks. Lights on human character. The book is therefore well worth reading, not simply from its point of view, but from its human touch and interesting action and plot. What you talking about? What you talking about, period. So I can't wait to read this. How many pages in it? It's only 303. Why does it look like it's more? Okay, yes. I'll let you know how that goes. I also want to mention my thoughts on W.E.B. I was having a conversation with my friend the other day, and she brought up this concept called activist trade. I don't know if y'all know what activist trade. Go look it up. Go look it up on the interwebs. But that's what he was giving low key. Sometimes when we have men in high places, men who are doing the work to advance Black individuals, who are doing the work to speak on some things that may be more taboo in order to gain equality for Black individuals as a whole. A lot of people won't call them out on the different ways they are living immorally and unethically in other parts of their lives. So not many people would have called him out for having multiple affairs on his wife, because, well, we got to be quiet. He doing the work. He really for us. But, and not just him, multiple men. Well, he doing this. He not as bad as the other ones. The word says a lawbreaker is a lawbreaker. It don't matter what law it is. There is no hierarchy. We got to stop this. And we need to be able to confront men specifically, but all people about in different ways that they are falling short. That way we can hold them accountable to the community that they claim to serve. Okay, and let's also talk about one of his quotes in this movie. Whenever they would meet at that hotel, he would always say, Jazz, another time, a different place, basically, if y'all didn't read the book, he was like, okay, maybe in another world we could have been together, we could have been married. Why would I marry you if you still gonna cheat on me? And besides that, that also made me immediately think of the term work wife. That's why I really don't like the connotation of the word work wife, because more often than not, it's used in situations where the man or the woman who are working together, that man is probably married. He has a wife at home. But when he comes to work, it's like this person he's gotten very close to, so much so that when they go out in public, people may think that they are the couple, that they are married indeed, because of how closely they work together, and it often turns into an affair. That's why I really don't want to be nobody's work wife. Please don't call me that. We don't work that close together. I can promise you that. I also want to bring up this quote of Another Time, a Different Place, because he often said that he told Nina, his wife, that he had needs. I hate this a man has needs mentality and concept, because y'all really just talking about polygamy. You're just talking about how he want to be with multiple women and cannot be loyal. Talk about what you talking about. Be honest about what you talking about. It ain't that many needs in the world. I can promise you that. Alright guys, so what I have here next is book number 4, which is One Crazy Summer by Rita Williams Garcia. And it says, I started this on the 27th of January. So I actually plan to read this right after the second book, Glory Be, but I couldn't keep up with it. And so I didn't end up finishing it until March 22nd. I got this book years ago. Literally, I was probably in middle school or elementary school, but I finally got around to reading it now, and I feel like this was divine timing, just because I feel like I can fully comprehend it now as an adult, as a young adult. Beautiful. I'm going to give you guys a quick overview. I did write notes. I like to write sticky notes in the beginning just to keep me on track, and I love annotating throughout the book. I know some people don't. Y'all weird to me, but I love a good annotation, a little sticky note here and there. So this book is about 3 sisters. Fern is the youngest, Vanetta is the middle child, and then there's Delphine, who is the oldest, the eldest daughter, and they are all girls. And so they live with their father and their grandmother. However, one summer they decide to go visit their mother. So now that they are visiting their mother, who lives in Oakland, well, I won't say Oakland, they live in the Bay Area. Now, these are 3 young girls who come from the north. I don't want to say New York, but I know it's the north. But grandma got roots in Alabama. Okay, this is good to note. So that is just juxtaposition about, you can have culture shock even within the same country, just because different states allow certain things that wouldn't be socially acceptable in another state. So another thing to note is that these 3 girls haven't seen their mother since she left after the youngest one, Fern, was born. And it mainly talks about the plight of the eldest daughter, how you have to always think about others before yourself, and putting your younger siblings' feelings above your own, and even trying to protect your younger self, your younger mindset, while protecting them. And just dealing with a mother who just doesn't know what to do with your existence, because they haven't truly healed from or processed their own existence of their younger selves. There are also some generational differences that this book explores between grandma, which is the lady, the mother of the father, and Cecile, which is the mother, and then Delphine, who is the eldest daughter. There's some differences between respectability that Delphine is having to grapple with, because grandma was raised one way in Alabama, of course, but now Cecile is kind of challenging that and they never got along anyway, the grandma or the mother. And Delphine has to basically chew the meat and spit out the bones. Like, what is she going to do for her life? What things is she going to accept and then therefore not accept other things? Now, this takes place in the summer of 1968. So the three girls are actually attending a summer camp hosted by the Black Panther Party. And that is when they learn all things revolution and their part in this fight in the community, their fight for Black power and just Black rights and justice as a whole. And throughout this book, you can see that the girls are constantly having to deal with the weight and just the thought of what their behavior will produce in somebody else, how other people will react to something that they said or something that they do, mainly these onlookers being white people, and how they will judge an entire race of Black people. So, for example, how Delphine was always trying to make sure that her younger sisters were behaving properly and correctly in public, just so white people don't say, oh, that Black girl was doing too much, or that Black girl was all over the place, she was doing this, she was doing this. Black girls are just this way, or Black people, they never have control over their kids. Like, how people will generalize an entire group of individuals based on one person's behavior out of that group. So that's something this explored, which goes into my point earlier about respectability politics and how that plays into our actions and how it weighs on us mentally. Okay, I did learn some words from this book, like spinning straw. That's basically like lying. And then they said eating crow a lot. I grew up understanding eating a slice of humble pie, but they're basically one and the same, like admitting that you were wrong about something. So I highly recommend this book. Again, those of you who are homeschooling, or your child goes unfortunately to a school where they're not teaching the truth, you should definitely think about adding this to your child's summer reading list. This is a middle grade level book, but like I said, anybody can read it. And yeah, let me know what you think. So the next book I want to show you guys is How to Survive Everything by Erin Morrison. Now, this book is the one book that I did have to DNF. I started this March 9th. I know because I have a video on my channel about going to a book vending machine, buying a book, and then challenging myself to read that book in 30 days. I did not at all complete that challenge. However, this is a pretty interesting book. It is more so a prepper type book about like the apocalypse. If the world is to end, how would you prepare? It's about this family, mainly told from the daughter's perspective, how she is a child of divorce and that effect that it has on her and her brother's mentality, how he uses food to cope, and how the father seems to be mentally ill, but who knows? He could just be a mad scientist. The mother is resistant to anything that the father has to say. It is a very interesting book. Again, I did not finish, but this is a soft DNF, and I might finish it at the end of the year. The next book I would like to showcase is called Dances by Nicole Cuffey. So I picked this book up from my local library. At the front of the library, there's this book sale store where you can go in and they have a bunch of books for sale. And they always have a cart for books that are $1. So I picked this up for $1, and it's in great condition. Honestly, it just says that it was discarded. Like, again, I would like to know why are books discarded? Like, I think somebody said if they haven't been checked out in a couple years, then they just have to get off the shelves. But this was a really good book. As you guys can see, I have note tabs. I have the clear sticky notes too for some of them. Some of them I had actual sticky notes with color. Some of them I had the tabs on the side. I love a good annotation, and this was a very well written book, so I'll give you guys a little bit of a synopsis. So this again can be described as literary fiction, and I started reading April 17th and I didn't finish this until June 13th, so a couple of weeks ago. And this book is about a girl named Cece Cordell who is a ballerina. She is also black, a black ballerina. And this book has a strong connection between ballet and other art forms such as the orchestra and music as a whole, music recognition, improv, acting, and fairy tales. And I would also say that it has a strong relationship to the French language. It also made me think about how some ballerinas, if they are professionals, how they have probably taken a French class once in their life. Yes, so this book showcases the juxtaposition between her life growing up as a young person, her younger self who wanted to be a ballerina, and then her achieving that dream now as an actual ballerina. And eventually in the book she gets promoted to principal and what that means for her. It also showcases the topic of black athleticism, how against our odds, even without the resources, she was able to make it through on a scholarship to work her way up the ranks and to eventually get the principal's position that I mentioned before. But the question at the end of the day is this enough to make her whole? Is doing what she's always wanted enough to make her whole? So she basically goes on this journey of finding herself after some unfortunate situations, and while finding herself, she's also looking for her brother. So her relationship with her brother is a huge part of this book. So she's finding her brother, and while she's finding her brother, she's also finding herself. It was beautiful. So about her brother, I would say there's a gap. There's an age gap between them. I want to say about 10 years. Don't quote me. About 10 years between their ages. So while she was younger, he was also an artist. So he used to sketch. He listened to a whole bunch of music, classical music even, and that really inspired her. He inspired her to become the dancer that she is. He used to call her Little Dancer. And he would pay sometimes for the ballet classes, but unfortunately he got addicted to some substances, and this book grapples with the topic of how substance abuse has a way of harming the entire family dynamic. You think it just would have consequences for the one person who is using, but no, it has a way of poisoning the entire family. And yeah, that is what is explored here. She also tries her best to be an example for the younger black ballerinas. The example that she never had, she tries to mentor them in that way. So, like I said, one of the main themes of this book is addiction. So after a while, her brother disappears, right? Her brother disappears. So part of the book is basically detailing how she is exploring and discovering herself through his absence while also desiring his presence to be there. And eventually she goes on to search for him. So I would say that there are multiple trigger warnings for this book. Substance abuse, as I already mentioned earlier, but also infidelity within romantic relationships, also divorce, I would say abortion as well. And I love how she talked about the weird age gap, that weird age. So Cece is around 22 years old. So it's around that age where dating up becomes an option, where it's like, okay, you could date a 19, 20-year-old if you're 22, but you also, the world has made it socially acceptable where you also could date a man who is way older than you and no one would bat an eye because you are older than 18. And so she mentally plays with this idea. I don't think... Okay, we're back, y'all. My original phone did die, so now I'm recording on my actual phone, which means I'm going to be reading some of my notes from my computer here. And bear with me because I do not have my glasses on. But like I was saying, she played with this idea of dating up. and it's not something that she acts upon. It's just an exploration that she does mentally, like I could do this or I could do that. But the restriction of her just being a ballerina as a whole, she refrains from doing a lot of things that she could do, which shows a lot of mental fortitude and also just discipline on her part. So like I said, this book can be a hard read for those who may have experienced some of the trigger warnings that I mentioned earlier, so please take care of yourself. So those were the 5 books by Black authors that I did complete mid-year, and also the 1 book that I decided to DNF. Now I'm going to show you guys a few books on my TBR. So this book I recently just got from the library. I need to read it before I have to return it. It is called Toward a Living, Archive of African Poetry, and this is a chapbook anthology, I believe. This is by Kwame Dowles and Chris Avani. It says on the New Generation African Poets chapbook series. I wanted this because, like I said, it says chapbook, and for those of you who don't know, I am a poet, and I think I would like to write a chapbook. That is probably the first time I've actually said it out loud and not just in my head. I think I'm gonna say it again. I think I want to write a chapbook. Oh my god, I just said it. So that's something I'm actively working towards. So I decided to pick up this book from the library. I also ordered a chapbook actually by Danielle Cuffey, who wrote the book I just told you guys about, Dances. So I read just her little author's bio in the back, and it says that she published a chapbook and she was a finalist for the chapbook competition. That's why you need to make sure y'all are reading the author's note and stuff like that. So I purchased her book and I'm going to read it, and I'm going to read this as well, just to inform me on chapbooks, because I don't think I've ever read one. I've never written one, obviously, so that's just something I want to do. Now I'm also going to show you guys this book I picked up at the library when I went to go pick this up. This was on the book card. This was on the free book card. This is called Erykah Badu, the Henna Artist, and this is by an Indian author. Yep. And y'all remember the last Indian book that I picked up was absolutely amazing. Book by an Indian female artist. So I'm like, this is probably gonna be good. They be having some good books. For those of you who don't remember, I'm talking about this book, A Time to Dance, that I read last year, and now I'm going to read The Henna Artist. I have no idea what it's about because I haven't read this part. Honestly, the cover is what got me. So I am excited to dig into this, and this was on Reese's Book Club. Last but not least, book I do want to mention is this book called In Bloom, a poetic documentary of the journey to higher self by Breyunha. It's because I'm not sure when I finished this. I know I bought it years ago. I really want to say I bought it in 2021, years ago, and I think I just finished it this year. And it's not because it's a super long or heavy book or any of that. I just have read multiple books in between and I haven't had time to pick it back up. So I think I finished it this year, but I'm not sure. So this is actually on my TBR to read all the way through by the end of this year. And I actually looked up the author, and she's an artist. I think she designed the book as well. Like, she creates visual art. She's also a writer. She just does so many mediums. I was like, oh my goodness, girl, where do you live? Where do the creatives be living? Beautiful. All right, guys, that is everything that I read for my mid-year reading update. Let me know if you guys have read any of the books that I discussed today, or if you would like to. And yeah, let me know what you think down in the comments, and I will see you guys later. Have a blessed day.